Genesis 14:18-20. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, maker of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abram gave him a tenth of everything. Okay, Tuesday, we're still making our way through some stewardship things, and I talked about corporately what our giving does, how the church operates, what the church does with the money, what the church is, and that sort of thing. And today we're going to be more personal. So the first example of tithing in the Bible comes 6 chapters in, and Abram, with the priest Melchizedek, gives thanks to God for victory in battle and gives Melchizedek, who's a priest, a tenth of the spoil, the first tenth of the spoils of that battle or war, and it continues on. And you'll see time and time again people giving the first 10% of their crop harvest battles, all kind of things. The first 10% of whatever they have or they've gotten to God is an act of faith and thanksgiving. And so that continues on. And then it gets really interesting in the book of Acts, where no one holds anything privately, but everyone holds everything in common. And so you really have an example of communism, if you will, not like Russia or something, but where everybody gives everything collectively to God and for the good of the church community. Now, that went on for a bit, but there was a problem when Constantine made Christianity legal and became Christian himself. Christianity grew to the point where everyone holding everything in kind was not really reasonable or manageable. So you had to have someone who took care of the crops, someone who took care of the roads, someone who took care of this and that and the other. And if you held everything in common, none of that would get done. So we kind of went back to the first 10% to God through the church. And so why do you do that? Again, like I've said, it's an act of thanksgiving, an act of faith. It's an act of gratitude and an acknowledgement that every single thing you have comes from God. And so we give back to God. Now, does God need that? No. But on our part, it's an example or a manifestation, a showing of our faith in God, our thanksgiving for all God has given to us. And so that's the sort of basic principle. Now, when I look at my own life and in stewardship, I preached a couple of sermons about this a year, but giving the first 10% of my time, talent, and treasures really changed my faith and the way I go about life. It put that priority first. It actually made my relationship with God and my faith, it took it to a deeper level, because when you give money in our world, unfortunately, money is sort of the measure of value, worth, effort, talent. All those things are summed up in money. And so to give that to the first 10% to God is a sacrifice of thanksgiving and a showing of faith. Definitely put my priorities, align my priorities where God was first and everything came after in a very real way. And so that helped make that relationship more real and helped me in my faith journey keep things in perspective and keep things somewhat prioritized, rightly prioritized method. And the same is gone for my family. And I think the most interesting way, or the most really brutally honest way to do this, is open up your checkbook or look at your credit card statement and see where things go. Like if you look at our household, once you get past basic human needs of food, shelter, clothing, things like that, the majority of the money we spend is on the children, and making sure that they have what they need to succeed and learn and grow and mature and be safe. And then you go into the hobbies and you can see, when I look at my life, like, cycling and photography and things like that are definitely priorities in my life. Just if you look at where we spend them. So look and see where God is in your spending. That will tell you a lot about in real ways about your relationship with God. How much a priority God is in the way you go about your day-to-day living, in the way you spend the money God has given you and the money you've earned and things like that. It's a very sobering thing because you want to look at mine, who's been a priest for nearly 2 decades and going about this business of giving for all of my adult life. You still see when you do that, look at your checkbook, it still paints a pretty dim picture of where God is and where things of faith are in your life. So, but that's, like I said, probably the most effective way to sort of see what that looks like. And so there's also something to giving that first 10%. It really helps you understand what all God has given you. It forces you to think back and to look at what God is doing in your life, where His grace and mercy abound in your life. And I think you'll find it does very much so. But also, when I started tithing, things that used to matter a lot didn't. So keeping up with the Joneses and all that kind of stuff kind of starts to go out the window. You start to look at the world in a more simple way. Like the things you might think you need and can't live without, maybe you can. Maybe those are just extravagant, or luxuries, things that you think are essential. So, tithing and giving on a personal level affects your faith tremendously. It's also sort of required of us. It's to return thanks and gratitude. How do we do that? The most common and biblical and most time-tested way to do that is by offering a Thanksgiving offering to God. We do that through the church, and then, like I said, the church exists as an offering to God and an offering to the community. So people can grow in their faith and come closer to God. So it all kind of works hand in hand. And in our day and age of deconstructionism and also abuses by churches and the way they spend money, it sort of causes you to think about that. Is that really what I need to be doing or not? But it's been done. It continues to be done, and it's kind of, like I said, there's nothing more real in the world than money. We live and die by that. That's a measure of work, talent, commitment. All of those things are now summed up in currency. So hopefully that gives you a little insight to that, and maybe hopefully a little encouragement to give just a little bit more, or to look at your giving as an act of thanksgiving to God, as it was with Abraham, as it was with everybody who went to the temple in the Old Testament, and everybody who gave everything for the common good in the New Testament. It should give us encouragement to see that that's the right and correct response to God in thanksgiving for all He has done for us. So think about those things and listen to another voice from the church. I hope everyone has a lovely Tuesday, and God bless you all.
One of the first parts of our service every Sunday is a summary of the law. One of the parts of the summary of the law is to love your neighbor, and that can be very difficult, right? But there are lots of ways we can love our neighbor. I guess one of the strongest hindrances toward reaching out is this very strong instinct that we have toward self-preservation. You want to take care of your own, like I'm here today by myself after church here with Claire. But everything we do is for us and our families, and then what's left over, goes to others. But getting over that instinct for self-preservation is pretty tough. So one of the ways we do that now is just to have a very sound financial situation in our homes. So what we do with that is we kind of imagine, as an analogy here, but we try to build as big a fire as we can to give lots of light and warmth, and we tend to stay very close to that. But one of the ways giving to the church enriches my faith and my life as a Christian is it's kind of like when you give, you're taking a torch out into the darkness, and that is a way of not only maybe enriching the community, but you're enriching yourself by kind of expanding your view and your spiritual life. St. John's means a lot to us. We've been here a little over 4 years now, and one of the things that's really cool about Laurel is we have this big capital C sense of community here. William Faulkner talks about his little postage stamp and how he could have 9 lives and still not have enough time to really explore and talk about the depth of it. But the sense of community here is really strong. We feel that not only out in the community, which Tiffany and I we're very involved in a lot of things, from nonprofits to volunteering. All the organizations. Like yesterday, I spent 8 hours flipping pancakes and feeding people, serving people with Kiwanis. All those opportunities are great, but it's even greater to have that opportunity within the church, ways to reach out and to help other people. That's one of the things I love about St. John's, is the ability to really plug in and to help. One of the greatest things about St. John's, and we noticed this the very first Sunday we showed up, it was June in 2019. We came to our first service here after being in town for maybe a week or two. But it's one of the reasons we actually chose to move to Laurel and consider the job that we have now. We wanted to have a local church, Episcopal church, that we could really kind of plug into. And I guess one of the greatest things about this church is opportunity. Our previous church was up in Memphis, Tennessee, and it was huge. I mean, you would see a different person every Sunday that you'd never seen before. And at times you felt like cattle being herded. There were opportunities to serve and to help out, but it was a lot harder to get in there. So the small size of St. John's is one of the great sides of it. Being able to do as much as you want to or as little as you want to. There's a need for all types of willingness to contribute time and effort. Just to kind of summarize, this little talk that I'm giving here. As you're filling out your pledge card, imagine there's a little memo line at the bottom. And when you're considering what your family is able to give this year, money-wise, maybe also think about ways in which you can give time-wise. And there's lots of ways to do that. Volunteering to help on any one of the guilds. We're always looking for help on Sundays and outside of Sundays for ways to, get our mission and our relationship with our church. It'd be pretty cool to see that go out and bring others in, because one of the greatest things about our faith is our mission to try to bring others in to experience what we get to experience.